Good morning everybody. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at how I painted up this Caladius Grav Tank for the Adeptus Custodes. So to begin we're going to work on the red details first, and what we're going to do is known as a volumetric highlight. So we've got three different tones of red here. We've got a shadow tone, which is the Baraknar burgundy that you're seeing right now, and then we're going to come in from 45 degrees with our midtone, which is going to be Mephiston red. And then after that, we're going to come in from 90 degrees with our highlight tone, which in our case is going to be some Evil Sun Scarlet. Now, you don't obviously have to use the airbrush. It's simply here just for the speed of it and the fact that obviously you can get really nice blends very, very quickly. Now, if you weren't using an airbrush, I would honestly recommend just base coating this in with something like Mephiston red rather than the burgundy, and then you can either glaze on something like the burgundy, or you can use like Tricky Violet or anything like that, and then you could even honestly just actually dry brush on the highlights as well. Okay, so here we are with those 3 rounds of airbrushing all done, and you can see that we get a nice fade effect going from those bright Evil Sun Scarlet highlights to our darker shadow areas. However, for me, it just wasn't quite dark enough in the shadow areas. So what I've done, this is actually just some known oil in the airbrush right now, and I'm just very, very lightly, essentially airbrush glazing on this known oil, just to really help to push that contrast and make my shadow areas that much darker. So here we are with the red details all actually done. So what we're going to do next is come in with some liquid mask, because we need to now protect this and mask it off before doing the gold details. So liquid mask is a really, really good way given the shape of the actual areas that we're using. So the way this works is we're going to need a synthetic brush, because this brush is going to get absolutely wrecked. So you don't want to obviously use a good brush, and just liberally paint it on over your area and make sure that the area itself has been pre-varnished, which will just help the liquid mask to not pull that paint off when you come to then take it off later on. After you've applied it, leave it to dry for approximately 1 to 2 hours, but you'll know when it's dry because it will dry with a clear sort of glossy kind of look, and then after that we can then paint over it. So for the gold details, we are also going to do another volumetric highlight, just like we did with the red. So we've got a shadow gold, a midtone gold, and a highlight gold. And it's pretty much the exact same way that we did the red. We're going to come in with our airbrush, base coat on with our shadow gold, and then from 45 degrees, we're going to use our midtone gold, and then from 90 degrees, we're going to use our highlight gold. Now, the reason that we're using the volumetric highlighting method here, and to be honest, the airbrush as well, is A, given the size of the model, and then B, the volumetric highlights are a very, very natural way of getting shadows and highlights on your mini, as if your light source is coming from top down, hitting the model and highlighting it. Of course, you can again do this with a paintbrush, and if I was to do this model with a paintbrush, I would base coat in the gold first, and then I would honestly just dry brush on the highlights, because the model doesn't have loads and loads of like areas for dry brushing, but it's got enough that it would still work. So with the gold all airbrushed on, it is now time to peel off that liquid mask, and you can see how good that liquid mask is, because obviously we've airbrushed on all of that gold, and as you see here, as we peel it off, not a single bit of that gold has gone onto our red. So it really does help, it really, really does work. But if you don't want to use a liquid mask, then I would recommend painting the gold first and then just painting in the red afterwards. And here is the model after all of that airbrushing has been done. So you see we've got really, really nice volumetric golds and really, really nice volumetric reds. So we've got nice bright reds and nice bright golds where the light source will be coming down and hitting the model. And then we've got those nice deeper, darker reds and deeper, darker golds in our natural shadow areas. After that is all done, we're just going to quickly come in and base coat all of the silver details. So for this, honestly, just use any silver that you want. Here, I'm just using a dark silver because I want these areas to be that little bit more grimy and dark than the gold above. Once all that silver has been base coated, we're now going to do an oil wash. So for the actual silver details itself, this is going to be a quick all over wash as if we're using something like Northern Oil. But for the gold and red details, we're going to be doing this as a pin wash instead. So especially on the red details, where the red meets the gold trim, this oil wash is going to be really, really good because we can paint it into that section and obviously really heavily darken it down just to give us that nice definition between the red and the gold. Once that has all been applied and given some time to dry, we can now come in with some mineral spirits and either a Q-tip, or in my case I like to use these makeup sponges. And the way that oil paints work is that we can use the mineral spirits to actually remove them from, in this case, the main raised areas, leaving it in our recesses. So you get really nice, really strong dark definition, but at the same time it doesn't leave all of the like tea staining and pooling and streakiness that something like Northern Oil or Agrax Earthshade would actually do. After our shading step is all done, we're now going to highlight the model. So for the silver details, we're just going to simply use some dry brushing, because you can see here on the turret, it's got quite a lot of sharp angular details. So dry brushing is honestly really good for it. So in this case, we're just going to do 2 rounds of dry brushing. The first round is just with a brighter silver, and then we're going to do an extra fine dry brush with some chrome. For the gold details, we're also going to do a dry brush because, as mentioned earlier on, there's not loads of like sharp details on the model, but there's enough to actually do a dry brush highlight. So for that, we're just going to do some Peridot Alchemy mixed with some Granite Steel, because that is a really nice blue steel, and it's really good for highlighting, in our case, the cold gold that we've got. And then once that is all done, we can come in with just some pure Granite Steel, just to really define and make those sharpest edges pop. And here we are. So with all of the highlighting stages all done, the main bulk of the model is now basically finished. So if you want to, you don't have to do this next step. The next step, we're going to do some blue sort of engine glow on these coils. But if you wanted to keep it a bit more like down to earth and a bit more grounded, then you honestly could just probably paint these silver and just give them that same oil wash that we did earlier and highlight them up, same as like the turret. However, if you do want to make them have a blue glow to them, what we're going to do is we're going to use 3 different tones. We've got a blue shadow tone here, and then we're going to start to actually airbrush on a straight line going across the middle of the coils with a brighter and brighter blue, ending with a pretty much like an off-white kind of blue, which is going to give us that nice punchy highlight at the end. And here we are. So with that blue glow all done, you can see we get this nice sharp line highlight, just giving us that pretty cool bit of OSL. And with the engines all done, the model is now finished. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you for any form of support, any likes or subscribes. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all next time.